Hi everyone, I'm so pleased to be with you. My name is Travis Baker and my day job is president of Anderson Construction. But I'm coming to you today as the board president of CICP, and I'm so thankful you chose to join us today for this special awards banquet. Let's jump right into our agenda for the day. First, we'll hear a little bit about CICP's history and where we think we're headed in the future. Next, we'll dive right into this year's awards, and we'll have two stories to highlight. Finally, after a moment to recognize our board and thank many of you, our sponsors, we'll give the floor to our keynote presentation by Payne West. We've got a lot of great content for you, so get comfortable, and for the next 45 minutes or so, enjoy our time together. I've been to 6 or 7 of these CICP awards banquets over the years, but you know, CICP luncheons and CICP itself have been around a lot longer than that. In fact, this year marks our 25th anniversary. For an organization that's run very lean over the years and yet has had such a powerful impact in the construction industry and frankly our communities, this is remarkable. I was talking with a colleague recently and we were reflecting on the significance of 25 years, of any 25th anniversary really, and how that seems to be such a natural moment to reflect on our roots and look to the future, our next 25 years. To do this, I'd like to introduce two really special people in all of this, Karen Blythe and Jason Oliver. As many of you know, Karen led this organization for the past 25 years, and she's been instrumental in not only keeping things together over the years, but pushing us forward along the way. Karen recently retired and passed the baton to Jason Oliver, and he's been focused on how we might evolve and change with the times to ensure value to our members, as well as strengthen our cherished relationships in the law enforcement community. With that, Karen and Jason, please take it away.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us to celebrate CICP's 25th anniversary. Travis and Jason asked me to provide a quick overview of the past 25 years, so here we go. In March of 1995, Brian Clark, then with Hoffman Construction, and Kenny Austin, then with EC Company, and I met to discuss some some construction thefts that were happening in our area. We engaged our partners at ASSP and CSS, American Society of Safety Professionals, and the Construction Safety Summit to join us in this adventure. For the next 6 months, we planned and developed a program that we thought would be successful. And in March 1996, on the steps of the courthouse, with our law enforcement partners and OSP behind us and our industry partners, we launched CICP. We're proud to say that we were joined by PMCA, SPCO, SMACNA, Liberty Insurance, ASSE, as we marched on to this endeavor. We began building relationships with law enforcement. We provided education and training throughout Oregon and Washington, and we also provided some training in Idaho, and we were able to provide training in Hawaii through our affiliations with the American Society of Safety Professionals. We worked with detectives and invited pawn shops and secondhand stores to work with us in helping to minimize the sale of stolen construction equipment through the pawn shops and secondhand stores. Following a series of metal thefts in 2009, we partnered with the scrap metal recyclers and our friends at the Oregon Nursery Association. And we partnered with law enforcement and we helped to create the Metal Theft Bill of 2009, which was actually signed into law by Governor Kulongoski. We conducted job site walkthroughs and we often invited law enforcement to join us on those walkthroughs so that contractors could learn and meet the local officers who were patrolling and working in their areas. It was a great response. There was a great response to that, and contractors enjoyed the walkthroughs, and law enforcement enjoyed meeting the people that they were protecting. Through our partnership with law enforcement, we have been able to prevent thefts, assist law enforcement in apprehending construction thieves, vandals, and actually crane jumpers. So now that I have completed this 25-year sprint, it is my honor to hand the baton over to Jason and the very capable board of CICP, many of whom who have been with us from the beginning. Congratulations on your success and many more years to come.
Thank you, Karen, for sharing these milestones of our remarkable history and for 25 years of commitment to crime prevention in construction. I'm Jason Oliver, the new Executive Director of the Construction Industry Crime Prevention Program. As we look towards the future of CICP, consider how much the industry has changed in so many ways over the past quarter century. New challenges continue to appear, particularly with regards to technology and the ingenuity of criminals. And so we must continue to adapt and evolve ourselves. Looking ahead, we'll use the knowledge gained from the construction industry, law enforcement, industry organizations, and other partners to chart a course forward. We're expanding the ways in which we leverage technology and the speed of information through video, our cell phones, and social media. By continuing to grow and tap into the intelligence of our network, we will arm our members with the tools, resources, and knowledge to improve prevention strategies and make it harder for criminals to target our job sites. While I am honored and grateful to be stepping into this role, most of all, I'm excited for what the future holds. In a moment, Travis will introduce this year's award recipients. But first, on behalf of our board of directors and all CICP members, I would like to recognize Karen Blythe as our first ever Lifetime Achievement Recognition Award recipient.
Thank you very much for this Lifetime Achievement Award. Wow, this 25 years go by fast. It's been my honor during the past 25 years to work with a great board of directors, our wonderful law enforcement partners, our industry trade associations, our vendors, and mostly our members who work so hard at crime prevention for profit protection. Thank you.
Congratulations on this recognition and on your retirement, Karen. It's been a privilege to work with you and to learn from you over the years. I hope you know I'm keeping you on speed dial. Now I'd like to hand it back over to Travis to introduce this year's award recipients. Travis?
Thank you so much, Karen and Jason. Great stuff. We're now moving on to the awards, and I'm excited to share two examples of the construction industry, CICP, and law enforcement all working together to attack what continues to be an ever-changing problem, theft and vandalism of our property. So, first up, the Law Enforcement Award, which is given to a law enforcement officer or officers who've worked to aid in the prevention, recovery, or arrest resulting from theft or vandalism on a construction project. This year, we're pleased to honor 4 members of our law enforcement community: TJ Hahn from the Tigard Police Department, Sean Solly from the Portland Police Department, Dave Heimbuck from the Clackamas County Sheriff's Department, and Detective Kevin Carlson from Gresham Police. Unfortunately, Kevin wasn't able to be with us today, but let's hear a few words from TJ, Sean, and Dave.
Hi, my name is TJ Hahn. I'm a detective with Tigard PD. First off, I want to thank CICP for the recognition for the 4 of us and their continued dedication to the industry. Without their partnership, I know I wouldn't have been able to solve several cases over the years, and partnering with them, connecting me with the correct people, getting the information together. I'd also like to thank Sean Solly with Portland, Kevin Carlson with Gresham, and then Dave Heimbuck with Clackamas County. Between the 4 of us, we did each have individual cases, but we came together as a team to try to track this guy down and share information. So it's always a great thing to get the industry together, but also the agencies sharing information. So again, I want to thank CICP for their dedication to the industry and their partnership with law enforcement, recognizing us for our hard work, but also want to thank them for their great hard work in continuing the partnership and building their association. And also the other three guys that I worked with on this case and all those that helped with search warrants. I'd also like to give a quick shout out to my wife for putting up with me in the long hours that we put in. And I know everybody's wives are the same way. So a great thank you to them for allowing us and putting up with us the long hours to help solve these cases. Again, thank you for our recognition on this. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Detective Solly with the Portland Police Bureau. I'd first like to thank the CICP for the recognition with this award. I'd also like to thank Detective Hahn with the Tigard Police, Detective Carlson with Gresham Police, and Detective Heimbach with the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office for their hard work in these cases. The collaboration between our departments made connecting the dots in these cases possible. The suspect in these cases was responsible for multiple burglaries and identity thefts throughout the metropolitan area, resulting in the theft of over $200,000 of property. To date, we've recovered a majority of that property and returned it to the rightful owners. Thank you again for the recognition of our work.
Hi, I'm Detective David Heimbach with the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. I would like to thank Jason Oliver with the Construction Industry Crime Prevention Program. This investigation involved multiple construction job site thefts and burglary-type crimes covering Clackamas, Multnomah, and Washington counties. Once I developed suspect information, I saw the suspect was already wanted in both Multnomah and Washington counties. I reached out to those detectives to share information about locating the suspect. I would like to thank TJ Hahn with the Tigard Police Department, Kevin Carlson with the Gresham Police Department, and Sean Sallee with the Portland Police Bureau for being such great partners in law enforcement. I would also like to thank the patrol deputies and patrol officers out there who also helped gather valuable information I was able to use to help build my investigation.
Thank you, gentlemen, and congrats again. Okay, our second award, the Law Enforcement Partner Award, is given to an officer and a CICP member who collaborate together to reduce or prevent crime, theft, or vandalism on our local construction sites. And this year, we're pleased to honor Dennis Bonin, Safety Manager for Perlo Construction, and Sergeant Troy Pelkey from the Portland Police Department.
Good afternoon. On behalf of Perlo Construction, I'd like to thank the CICP Board of Directors for this award. It's not every day you have a shooting on your construction site. Working directly with CICP, Perlo was able to quickly determine this was an isolated, gang-related event and not specifically targeted at our construction site. This knowledge allowed Perlo to return our employees back to work without hesitation. Thank you, Troy and the Portland Police Bureau, for your immediate response, and Jason and the Construction Industry Crime Prevention team for being a resource in our time of need.
I'm Troy Pelkey, Portland Police Bureau, and I would like to congratulate Dennis and Perlo Construction on this year's Law Enforcement Partner Awards. I'd also like to thank CICP for recognizing the importance and the value of law enforcement working with the construction industry to prevent and investigate thefts and violence that occur around the workforce. I would encourage each and every one of you, if you have any questions or concerns, to reach out to your local agencies. We're more than happy to provide you with any information we can, as long as it doesn't interfere with the integrity of an investigation that's ongoing. You folks, you build the roads, we just patrol them. So reach out to us if you have any concerns, and thanks again.
Thank you again, and congrats, Dennis and Troy. Before we get to our keynote presentation, I want to just pause, recognize, and thank the CICP Board of Directors, and offer a huge thank you to our sponsors for today's event. Okay, moving into our keynote presentation, I'd now like to introduce Travis Davis and Megan North of Payne West Insurance. Payne West is the largest independent employee-owned agency based here in the Northwest with over 700 employees throughout Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and Montana. And construction is their largest segment. Travis Davis is a licensed civil engineer with 15 years experience in commercial and residential construction management. And Megan North has 10 years of wholesale insurance experience. She's been focused exclusively on cyber and professional lines of coverage. Megan was the co-creator of the first modern cyber umbrella policy designed to address gaps caused by silent cybercrimes. So listen, I know a little bit about the material that Travis and Megan are going to share with you, and I can tell you it's packed with great information and it's very relevant. So with that, from one Travis to another, take it away.
Thank you, Travis, for that kind introduction and for the invitation to be here today to speak with your members. Right away, Megan and I were excited to assemble the information you're about to see and hear because cybercrime is a fast evolving landscape and because we love working with best in class. All of you, by your company's membership in CICP and by your personal attendance today, you're all demonstrating that you're high performers striving to be best in class. Two things I know about high performers. First, they're eager to learn valuable information. And second, they don't like wasting time. So with that, let's jump right into our deliverables for today. First, we're going to frame the problem. What are we facing and where did it come from? Second, we're going to give relevant examples of cyber attacks and losses for construction companies because those outcomes just don't make the news unless they affect hundreds of thousands of people. Third, we're going to inform you on the current state of the insurance industry with regard to cyber threats. And there's good and bad news here to share, and you should be aware of both. And fourth, we will arm you with an action plan that you can use to become a harder target today. So with those goals set, let me briefly introduce the who behind the information today. Megan North is my presentation partner and the real brains behind the duo. After studying law and making a quick right turn to avoid the drudgery of writing legal opinions in some courthouse basement, she switched majors to the thrilling field of insurance and risk. Megan is a true technician. She's spent her entire career underwriting, advising, and creating cyber programs. Megan works with Amwins, the nation's largest wholesale broker and partner of ours, providing cyber coverage totaling roughly $100 million in premium. If you're old enough like me to remember Bo Knows Baseball, well then Megan knows cyber. For myself, I'm just a lowly civil engineer who spent 15 years as a builder in both Portland and Bend before I finally found my niche in risk finance. I've been on teams constructing several high-tech fabrication plants, high-rise condos, manufacturing facilities, and high-end custom homes. For the past 6 years, I've been building a niche practice out of my Bend office to advise contractors and developers from Minneapolis to Honolulu and San Diego to Fairbanks. I have the support of my 700 plus colleagues at Payne West, and together we have all the tools and bells and whistles of the big publicly traded brokers and the market knowledge of your next door neighbor. If Bo knows baseball and Megan knows cyber, then, well, I'm not going to say it. But I do hear from clients and underwriters alike that my inside knowledge of the industry gives them an edge, and who doesn't like an edge? All right, this slide deserves some explanation. It's the economy, stupid. Great quote, right? One of my clients is a general construction company owned by these two great guys. One had been working with me a little more than the other. And during a meeting one day, the second owner kept coming back to the insurance policy and specifically the premium. And the first turned to him bluntly and delivered the punchline for me. He said, "It's not about the insurance premium. It's about the risk, stupid." And although I wouldn't use the word stupid, I do appreciate his passion. And ever since that meeting, I've had Bill Clinton's 1992 campaign slogan repurposed in my mind. I think this is a necessary reframe because the insurance industry is full of brokers who teach their clients to take the shortcut when they shop for their insurance policy, when really they need advice and focus on managing their risk. After all, risk is what we truly have control over. You will all understand this, or you wouldn't be celebrating 25 years of success recovering millions of dollars in equipment and materials. However, I'm virtually certain there are business owners in attendance today that look to their brokers as sellers of insurance. My suggestion is that you hold them to a higher standard. In the world of risk management, we have tools to use and decisions to make regarding risk that are much more broad than insurance. You can avoid risk, just choose not to undertake the activity at all. You can mitigate risk. Great examples of this are using a harness and lanyard, using backup alarms on your vehicles. You can transfer risk. How many of us subcontract out to subcontractors or subcontractors, those activities that we don't want to perform ourselves? Finally, finance, this is where the insurance conversation belongs. It's option 4A in how to manage risk. It's not the title of the page. And then lastly, what can be the most expensive way to manage risk is accepting the risk. If you have a loss, it's expensive. And if you don't have a loss, it's free. But we just want our clients to understand what exposures they're accepting before they put their balance sheet at risk. All right, I'll hand it off now to Megan because she is just the right person to frame the problem for us.
Thanks, Travis. So, we're all here today because we have a vested interest in protecting business against unwanted attacks or losses. And today we're really going to focus on the digital side of those threats. Cybercrime. What is it? It's exactly what it sounds like. Basically using computers and the internet to attack others and enrich oneself. And cybercrime really comes in many forms. Some of the most commonly recognized forms include social attacks, such as social engineering or phishing scams. Malware, such as ransomware, is also a common type, where damaging software is released into a network, which results in damages and or loss or access abuse. But even with all the technological advances, the bad guys they've come a long way over the last few years. However, we can't forget the good old-fashioned hacking works just as well, and frankly is responsible for roughly half of the attacks that are reported. But despite the form of cybercrime, the key thing to note is that the threat actors are really creative and really cunning and seemingly always a step ahead of the good guys. They continually develop new methods of attack and even will recycle and reuse known methods on a cyclical basis. And the graph to the right highlights the evolution of favored attack types over the years and the evolutionary nature of the risk. So with that said, we wanted to spotlight ransomware as a form of cybercrime. Why? Well, there's a couple of reasons, but most notably, ransomware payments are up 171% year over year in 2020. 39% of these attacks were perpetrated against healthcare, manufacturing, and none other than construction-related companies. So what is ransomware exactly? Again, quite literally, it's a combination of ransom and software. It's not a virus. It's actually a different form of malware, which, as mentioned before, can be installed on a computer or a user's network with the ability to cause harm to data or restrict access to that data, or even now we're starting to see exfiltration of that data. Most typically, it's installed via someone clicking a malicious link, downloading a malicious file, such as a PDF, which then embeds the ransomware into the system. At this point, it's game on for the bad guys. It begins silently encrypting that data. And once the encryption is complete, a message displays demanding a ransom, usually gives a deadline to pay in order to access those encrypted files. So hence the name ransomware. It's essentially demanding a ransom from a user in exchange to access to the kidnapped file. Sounds pretty complicated, right? I mean, you think about someone trying to get into your system from a remote location, potentially even another country, but it's actually not. There are some very sophisticated firms who deploy this tactic to earn money, but the scary part is that it's now become a business. So if we look at the history of how it's evolved, what's happened is that there are probably a handful of people, really talented hackers, maybe a few thousand individuals on Earth who are really capable of successfully exploiting computer network vulnerabilities. In the early 2000s, it was cool to test your hacking skills against the defenses of the big corporations. Think the Apples, Microsoft, even CIA. There was no money involved, but one's ability to break into the system of a large target was pretty good for the hacker's ego. But as cybersecurity started to become more of a thing and started to hit the radar of the good guys, this task became harder and harder. So companies learned, they adapted, they became better equipped to defend against the attacks. And eventually circumventing the defenses became harder and harder. It began to take more time. And all of a sudden the ego trip really wasn't enough, wasn't worth the effort for some of these hackers. So with that, they had to find a way to monetize these skills. Some went to work for the white hat organizations, the good guys, as we would say, but some decided to weaponize their skill set and to make money from it, frankly. All of a sudden, ransomware has become a business. So just like that, you no longer have to be an extra skilled hacker to have the ability to significantly disrupt business operations or extort data or access to data for a ransom. In fact, and I know the graph is difficult to read, but I'll highlight a few milestones in the ransomware lifecycle. So 2009 saw the genesis of file encryption methods. 2010 saw the birth of Bitcoin, which increased monetization abilities. 2014 saw emergence of over 250,000 ransomware samples, and 2015 saw over 4 million ransomware samples. Think about that. In just 365 days, the number of ransomware samples in circulation increased 16 times. Compound that over the last 5 years, 6 years, we're in 2021 now. It's really easy to see how businesses are at a paramount risk, probably more than ever before, and frankly, why cyber insurers are considering ransomware as a top threat. So is construction really at risk? Well, where we are today is this. Cyber criminals' tools, including those used to create ransomware attacks, they're becoming incredibly cheap and accessible, meaning anyone with a computer can now launch cyber attacks and aim them toward businesses, small to large, doesn't matter, that may never have been targeted in the past. And that's what makes this really such a scary thing for any business. Here's the facts. So many times businesses think they're not a target because they're too small, or they don't rely heavily on technology, or they don't have much data, but that's simply not true. Hackers, especially those who are not as sophisticated, really don't care who you are or what you are. They're looking for the lowest hanging fruit. What I mean by that is any network connected to the internet with vulnerabilities they might be able to exploit for money, period. That's what the hackers want. With businesses so reliant on technology, access to the internet to do business, any downtime from, a ransomware event or other cyber incident can really be crippling. And, I hear objections all the time. Megan, we're hammer and nail operation. Cybercrime, not really on our radar. It doesn't keep us from doing our day-to-day jobs. And I say, to that, I would say that's fine, right? But how do you pay your employees? How do you schedule your jobs? How do you communicate with clients and customers? And do you use cell phones and laptops? Because those are considered endpoints to your network. Even a coffee maker, if it's connected to the internet, is an endpoint. According to the SANS Institute study, 53% of organizations' endpoints have been compromised at some point. And ransomware can enter through the endpoint or can be triggered there. So we can see very quickly how cyber crime is becoming an issue, ransomware in particular. And as painful as it is, Travis has a firsthand experience with ransomware that he's going to share with us now.
Yeah, thanks, Megan. Now, I could easily just insert another case study and skip over my own company's issues, but I look at this as a golden opportunity for us to educate and help our clients prepare, and I've shared this with several clients thus far. I'm proud that our leadership agree with that philosophy and have allowed me and others to continue to share our story in detail. As a student of risk and a great safety director of mine once said, it's always cheaper to learn from the misfortunes of others than it is to make the mistakes yourself. So in his honor, I'll go ahead and share this. On one morning of October of last year, I woke up to no access to email, no access to a company database where all of our policies and client information are held, and no share drives. I don't know what that would do to you and your business, but that was a little unnerving. We have a text system, TEXT system for communicating offline in our company, part of our resiliency plan. And we were told pretty quickly there was an unknown IT systems issue, and then followed by a message a few hours later saying, yeah, we are completely locked out, and go ahead and start contacting your clients. I don't know about you all, but in our office, we've got at least a dozen, more like 2 or 3 dozen balls in the air at any one time. So I've got clients emailing questions, underwriters sending quotes, you get the idea. So we scramble, around lunch, after we find out that we're locked out indefinitely, we're hitting the phones, calling all of our clients and letting them know we're still here, but we're not receiving emails, and we don't even know that the emails that we're missing. We all either set up new temporary email accounts or used our personal email accounts to keep conducting business. But talk about productivity impact. You've got 700 employees, 6 days of lockout, 8 hours per employee, well over $1 million in payroll. And maybe we weren't 100% unproductive, but losing 50% is a real probably quality estimate there. So what happened? Day 2 comes, we still don't have email, but we do have our database that was intact because it was on another level of isolation and security, and thank goodness it was. By day 6, day 7, we finally pay a ransom. It was negotiated and paid. And then the forensics continued for weeks on our system to figure out exactly what happened. And we actually found more embedded malware that was in place and prepared for a second bite at the apple. So as it turns out, ransomware is effective. We had to pay. Otherwise, we would not have gotten our access to our email back. The amount of payment is well above my pay grade, but I have heard from outside observers that it was surely in the high 6 figures for us as a target. And unfortunately, the ransom didn't make the bad guys go away. So without the threat response team, we would not have known that there was still a threat on our system. So this slide, what good is a cyber insurance policy anyway? And what value does a carrier have? Well, I can tell you it's extremely beneficial. The ability to locate and engage each of these professionals, from the threat response team to the investigators to the negotiators, legal experts, because we have a lot of compliance to ensure, public relations consultants, credit monitoring, just to contact them, engage them, pay them, that would have been a significant barrier to us resolving the attack and would have slowed our response. The carrier connected us to these resources within hours. And even though our policy paid out a significant amount, it was an order of magnitude less than the criminals were initially asking for because of our skilled negotiators. So we thought we were well protected before, and we certainly were better than most. We had 7 IT professionals keeping every piece of software up to date on 700 laptops out there with the latest antivirus and malware detection, high password security requirements, and all of our employees had training on cybercrime awareness for at least the last 18 months. I can tell you today we're even better protected, but even with that, I know that bad actors will always find a way. They only need to be right, or they only need to find one way in. We need to protect every door and window. So Megan, you've got 2 more contractor case studies to share.
Sure. And Travis, I gotta say, the impact of that on your business, what stood out to me is really the ripple effect. It wasn't just the ransom, it wasn't just the downtime, it was from, restoring reputation to restoring data to making sure clients were taken care of. So that's an incredible story. I'm glad you guys are on the other side of it now. So thanks for sharing. I think we would be remiss, certainly, in talking about cybercrime if we didn't talk about a couple other examples outside of ransomware. To round out the discussion, we really wanted to introduce a couple other forms and a couple other methods that threat actors can use. And though not as hot of a topic due to the overwhelming nature of ransomware losses currently, social engineering is still a very real risk. So earlier I mentioned social attacks, preying on people as people, right? Using methods to invoke a response just inherent based upon our personal experience and who we are. So in this situation, a Slate installation contractor's emails were accessed by a hacker. He posed as the general manager, asked an employee to contact the bank, and gave instructions for the funds to be transferred into the hacker's bank account. The unauthorized payments totaled about $270,000. Fortunately, they were able to recover some of that money, but the reality is there was still a significant out-of-pocket cost and certainly a scare for the contractor. Fortunately, the contractor has a standalone policy which covers social engineering. That is what this is an example of. And so once the contractor notified their insurance company, a forensic consultant got involved. And then, he also appointed other individuals, IT security experts, to help that contractor shore up their defenses for potential future risks. So, yes, he's out the deductible. Yes, the contractor is out a little bit of money due to the fraudulent transfer. But the reality is a cyber insurance policy helps sort of mitigate the true impact to the business. An additional example, something maybe a little more benign, a little less obvious, and frankly, seems a little more innocent. So remember, we talked about low-hanging fruit. Well, this scenario is exactly that. Hackers penetrated a residential construction company's network from a vulnerability in outdated software application. 750 names, addresses, phone and credit card information items were compromised. Local authorities received multiple complaints of suspicious activity, and once discovered, they called the insurance carrier, who immediately brought in forensic experts to initiate the IT recovery plan and notification program. So the cyber policy was triggered in this instance, which gave the insured, gave the construction company immediate access to those response services. They dispatched their forensics team, claim was started. IT team and forensics consultants worked together to ensure they had up-to-date defenses. And due to confidentiality reasons, we don't know the exact amount of the loss, but it's fairly easy to contemplate that based on what we know, average costs, and what losses we have seen and do have access to that have been made public. And we know that it's going to be somewhere in the $500,000 to $600,000 range. So having a policy which can help with those costs is certainly going to be something that helps protect the bottom line. Now, with all the doom and gloom, I think it's only fair that we bring this back. There's lots of nefarious activity happening around us and our businesses daily. But the good news is there are ways to protect your bottom line and to protect your business from cybercrime. Insurance risk transfer is a prime example. Item 4A of Travis's risk management techniques, if you're following along. So just expectations a little bit around the current insurance landscape. It's important to note that insurance carriers really are taking on significant losses from ransomware in particular. And just to highlight that, to illustrate that a little bit, I know that one of the leading cyber insurers in the market today announced recently after their 2020 year-end results came out that the only business segment not to release reserves was its executive lines group, which houses the cyber lines of coverage. Good news is many insurers and insurtechs even are finding cost-effective ways to underwrite the risk using AI, using third-party scans. And what these do is allow them to be nimble in their underwriting, but also to do that more effectively and more cost-effectively. And this provides significant opportunities for insureds or businesses looking to purchase a cyber insurance policy. What we're also seeing is that underwriters are heightening their expectations when it comes to taking on insureds. Gone are the days when you could have virtually no effort put forth in your cybersecurity posture and still get a cheap quote, an easy quote with all the bells and whistles. Frankly, underwriters just want to see that some effort has been taken to secure the perimeter. And there really are advantages for companies who prioritize, strengthening their cybersecurity posture. No two policies are equal, but like we said, good news is there is coverage available, and certainly for those who take the matter seriously and want to present themselves as a good risk, not only to shore up their defenses for their own purposes, but also it makes them a more attractive risk from an underwriting standpoint. And the other good news is that cyber policy is not just a policy, it's much more than a piece of paper. More so than many of the other lines that we deal in, we see that cyber insurance carriers are realizing the need to partner with insureds. So they're also providing services, vendor discounts, consultations, even breach response and incident response plans, as well as tabletop exercises for insureds to work through those plans and actually put their security posture through its paces, frankly.
So by now you're either a little more unnerved and wanting to go back to blissful ignorance, or you're motivated to go to work on becoming a harder target. What are the cyber equivalents to locking your gates, installing monitored job site cameras, and engraving the phone numbers and social security numbers into your forklifts and generators, because I know some of you do that. Here's a list to get you started. Broad categories to focus on. First, plan for the what if and prepare for the when. Remember, hackers only have to be right once. You have to defend yourself perfectly 100% of the time to avoid an attack. Number two, educate your frontline defense, your employees. It's that human factor that often gets hackers in the door. Number three, use a cyber liability insurance application as a preparedness checklist. The best applications out there reflect the vulnerabilities that companies like yourselves can have. And if you use that application as a checklist, that's a great way to prepare yourself. And then number four, focus on your hardware, encrypt your devices, and then focus on your software and update that software on a regular basis. So thank you for the invitation to present today, and thank you for your attention. Please feel free to reach out to Megan or myself with any questions or clarifying anything you heard in our presentation today, and have a great rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
Travis, Megan, what an excellent presentation. Cybercrime is another area where we all have to be vigilant, and it's helpful to know that there are people out there who understand and can help us navigate something that can be so foreign to many of us. I appreciate you sharing your experience with us today. And with that, our 25th annual award ceremony is a wrap. Congratulations to this year's award recipients, and thank you once more to each of our sponsors for making this presentation possible. To our members, law enforcement, and industry partners, thank you for your continued support and active engagement. Be safe, and remember, crime prevention is profit protection. Take care.